Mr. President.
Minority Leader, Senator from Kentucky.
Mr. President, tomorrow is Veterans Day, the day we set aside to honor the service and sacrifice of the heroic men and women who served in the United States Armed Forces. America remains a beacon of freedom throughout the world today because of the commitments and sacrifices they have made. Over the years, many brave Americans donned their country's uniform to ensure that we would remain safe and free here at home. That effort continues today as our fighting forces courageously defend freedom from threats in Afghanistan and Iraq and elsewhere around the world. My own state of Kentucky has a proud military history, and today is the home both to Fort Knox and Fort Campbell, which together house thousands of soldiers. Many have gone from vital training at these two posts on to protecting their nation in the heart of the fight in Afghanistan and Iraq. So tomorrow, as America takes a moment to thank these brave men and women who fought to preserve our way of life and to remember the heroes who did not return home, we will also give thanks for the men and women in uniform who are currently in harm's way. And I might say, Mr. President, every Veterans Day I remember my own father who served in World War II. He arrived in Europe after the Battle of the Bulge and was there until his unit met the Russians in Pilsen. And one of my treasured possessions is a letter he wrote to my mother on VE Day. And they called it VE Day at the time. He wrote VE Day at the top of the letter. And that began a series of correspondence in that period right after the ceasefire and the Germans surrendered, in which he at one point prophetically, and this was just a foot soldier, prophetically mentioned to my mother after his experience interacting with the Russians in Pilsen that they were going to be a big problem down the road. And I thought it was quite noteworthy that a regular foot soldier sort of instinctively understood at the moment that the Russians were an ally of convenience in World War II and not a long-term ally. Regretfully, both my mother and father are no longer living, but I do remember them fondly and reread their correspondence from time to time during that period when he was overseas.